Some of the key messages I took away from the Decolonial Research Methods webinar series 2021, organised by Dr. Leon Musavi, are: 1. It is fundamental to understand history and terminologies around the term decolonial research methods to enable the researcher to move beyond liminality. 2. It is not just shifting, but disrupting the entrenched narrative that the Global South is the data provider, while the Global North hosts the expertise to analyze and theorize about the data. 3. Decolonial research methods has to be done through the lens of intersectionality to disentangle the power and politics maintaining the colonial hegemonies in research and publications. In essence, decolonial research methods is focused as much on the decolonizing knowledge as well as the research process.
Now, why is it important to decolonize research methods? Well, because it's the only way to keep research ethical. Colonialism has left an heritage of racist and sexist exclusion and systemic violence, and this has shaped the face of most of contemporary institutions, including academia and its practices as research. So we cannot just simply let ourselves consciously or unconsciously to reproduce those dynamics of exclusion through our own practices. If we seek to achieve ethically sound research, we should be aware of how our own practices reproduce or help to reproduce uneven power relations in order to avoid the reproduction of social injustice within our own work.
So in answering the question about the importance of decolonizing methodology, I am going to call our attention to general conversations on methodologies in the academy and also the importance of methodology in specific research. I believe that if the conversation on decolonization is able to infiltrate methodology discussion, it is going to foster and assist the decolonization movement. Also, decolonizing methodologies would allow for pluriversality and diversity in the academy. It is going to allow for popularization of indigenous methodologies, episteme, and pass it across generation and to many parts of the world. Thank you very much.
For me, the answer is simple. If there is no colonization of knowledge, then decolonization of methodology is not necessary. However, because the current dominant knowledge production has a colonial character, it is only natural for us to undertake decolonization effort. For example, according to Ziauddin Sardar, we are now faced with zombie discipline. So what is the zombie discipline? We can say that zombie discipline is a form of knowledge production that should have died along with the fall of physical colonization. But in fact, this production of knowledge continues to exist. And I think Sardar was right. We can take, for example, psychology, which places human as nothing more than mechanical machine that can be manipulated for political and economic purposes. And just as zombies who make human as their primary target, as their food, this zombie discipline also has dehumanizing, anti-ecological, and anti-transcendent effect, turning the earth into the living hell. So it is a natural thing if we try to de-zombinize or decolonizing the colonial discipline and methodology.
Vanakkam from Chennai in Tamil Nadu, South India. Decolonial research methods are especially relevant in a country like India, with its vast colonial history and unparalleled rich diversity. over 1,000 languages and corresponding cultures changing every few hundred meters. So it's not sufficient and actually impossible to just find ways to be more sensitive and be more inclusive. Rather, it becomes imperative that for research to be truly authentic and honest, we will need to clearly look at a shift in power into the hands of those whose lives are central to the study and who know their lives the best. So decolonizing research is not just an option but a necessity for research to truly serve its purpose.
It is important to decolonize research methods for autonomous knowledge production. I find it next to impossible, if not troublesome, to go on and continue doing research with colonial methods. We need a decolonial, if not anti-colonial stance on doing research to produce relevant knowledge for our community and other islands as well. I mainly use decolonial research methods in the area of language, media, and culture studies. Having obtained training in Philippine studies, I try to manage area and local studies. Decolonial research methods are imperative to pursue questions and concerns that would benefit the local community and perhaps neighboring communities too. For the past several episodes and recent webinar series on decolonial research methods, I have situated myself, tried to reassess, and evaluate how to proceed. My main insights about decolonial research methods are quite paradoxical. Initially, I expected to learn something new. I ended up reaffirming the previous tendencies, practices, and advocacies worth moving forward.
While I think it's important to decolonize research methods, I think it's even more important to decolonize ourselves before we start our research. We've grown up in societies receiving communications, and there are ideologies, there are systems in place that have been influenced by colonialism or come from the colonies and the powers that be. And so we have that in our brains and in the way we act, the way we think. So it's very important, I think, first, before decolonizing the research methods, is decolonizing yourself and questioning everything, the processes that you're thinking about, the tools that you're using, whether they're electronic or they're pens or papers. We need to question everything in order to decolonize the processes successfully.